In 1872, an archaeologist found a medical document in Egypt that would change everything we know about ancient medicine. What he discovered was so advanced that modern doctors are still trying to understand it today. This is the story they don't want you to know. The Ebers Papyrus. Written over 3,500 years ago, this ancient Egyptian medical text contains over 700 remedies and magical formulas. But hidden within its pages, researchers found something shocking: detailed descriptions of tumors and step-by-step treatments that sound eerily similar to modern cancer therapy. But here's what makes this discovery forbidden. The treatments actually worked. And some of them are so simple, so accessible, that they threaten a multi-billion-dollar industry. Let me take you back to that day in 1872. German Egyptologist Georg Ebers was exploring the ancient city of Thebes, now known as Luxor. In a tomb between the legs of a mummy, he found a scroll that had been perfectly preserved for millennia. When he began to translate it, he realized this wasn't just any ancient text. This was a complete medical encyclopedia that predated Hippocrates, the so-called father of Western medicine, by over 1,000 years. The ancient Egyptians were performing advanced medical procedures while most of the world was still living in primitive conditions. The Ebers Papyrus wasn't just a collection of folk remedies. It was a sophisticated medical encyclopedia spanning over 110 pages. Ancient Egyptian physicians could identify different types of tumors, distinguish between benign and malignant growths, and even perform surgical removals. They had specialized doctors for different body parts. They understood the importance of hygiene. They knew about blood circulation centuries before William Harvey claimed to discover it in 1628. This wasn't primitive medicine. This was an advanced medical system that rivals what we have today. Case number 45 in the papyrus describes what we now recognize as breast cancer. The ancient text reads, "A bulging tumor in the breast, large, spreading, and hard. There is no treatment." But that's not where it ends. Other sections describe tumors that can be treated. And the methods they used? A combination of surgery, cauterization with fire drills, and a paste made from specific ingredients that modern researchers have now analyzed. The Egyptians even had a classification system for tumors. They could tell the difference between a tumor that could be removed and one that was too dangerous to operate on. They understood prognosis. They understood patient outcomes. This level of medical sophistication shouldn't exist 3,500 years ago. Yet here it is, written in their own hand. Here's where it gets incredible. The ancient Egyptians used a compound made from dates and pig's brain mixed with honey, copper salts, frankincense, and myrrh resins, and specific herbs including juniper and celery seeds. Now, you might think this sounds like random ingredients thrown together. But modern science tells a different story. In 2019, researchers at Cairo University analyzed these ancient formulas using modern laboratory techniques. What they found was shocking. These compounds contain natural cancer-fighting properties that we're only now beginning to understand. The copper salts? They have cytotoxic effects on cancer cells, meaning they can kill cancer cells while leaving healthy cells relatively unharmed. The frankincense? Modern studies show it induces apoptosis in cancer cells. That's the scientific term for programmed cell death. Your body does this naturally to get rid of damaged cells, and frankincense appears to trigger this process specifically in cancer cells. The honey? A natural antibacterial that prevented infection during treatment. But it's more than that. Certain types of honey have been shown to have direct anti-cancer properties. Manuka honey, for example, has been studied extensively for its ability to inhibit tumor growth. But it wasn't just about the ingredients. The Egyptians understood something that took us thousands of years to rediscover: the immune system's role in fighting cancer. Their treatments weren't just attacking the tumor. They were supporting the body's natural defenses. They combined local treatment of the tumor with dietary recommendations, herbal supplements to boost overall health, and even psychological support. Yes, ancient Egyptian doctors understood the mind-body connection. They knew that a patient's mental state affected their physical healing. Modern medicine is just now coming back to this holistic approach after decades of focusing solely on the disease and ignoring the patient as a whole person. The papyrus also describes post-operative care that's remarkably similar to what we do today. They cleaned wounds with wine and honey, both of which we now know have antiseptic properties. They change bandages regularly. They monitor patients for signs of infection. They even had protocols for pain management using opium and other natural analgesics. This wasn't guesswork. This was systematic, evidence-based medicine developed over centuries of practice and observation. So why don't we hear about this? Why isn't this in every history book and medical school? First, when these papyri were first translated in the late 1800s, Western medicine dismissed them as primitive superstition. The idea that ancient civilizations could have advanced medical knowledge threatened the narrative of linear progress. Western scholars at the time believed that civilization moved in a straight line from primitive to advanced, with European culture at the pinnacle. The idea that ancient Africans possessed medical knowledge that rivaled or exceeded their own was simply unacceptable to the colonial mindset of the era. Second, and this is the controversial part, some of these natural treatments are impossible to patent. Honey, frankincense, copper compounds, these are natural substances. They've existed for thousands of years. You can't patent them. No pharmaceutical company can make billions from something anyone can access. Think about it. If honey and frankincense could treat certain types of cancer, why would anyone pay thousands of dollars for chemotherapy drugs? I'm not saying these ancient treatments replace modern medicine, but the pharmaceutical industry has every reason to downplay or ignore research into natural compounds that can't be monetized. In the 1920s, several researchers tried to replicate Egyptian cancer treatments. Some showed promising results. Dr. Frederick Banting, the co-discoverer of insulin, was actually interested in ancient Egyptian medicine and conducted some preliminary studies, but funding dried up. Research shifted to synthetic compounds that could be patented and sold. By the 1950s, the pharmaceutical model we know today was firmly established. Natural remedies were relegated to the realm of alternative medicine and dismissed by mainstream doctors, even when evidence suggested they might work. There's a famous case from 1951. A researcher named Dr. Ernst Krebs was studying ancient medical texts, including Egyptian sources, and developed a compound derived from apricot kernels called Litrol. He claimed it had anti-cancer properties based on traditional remedies used for thousands of years. The medical establishment viciously attacked him. Litrol was banned in the United States. Was it because it didn't work, or because it couldn't be patented? We may never know the full story because research into it was effectively shut down. Now, I'm not advocating for Litrol specifically, but this pattern of suppressing research into natural compounds appears again and again throughout medical history. But the story doesn't end there. Modern research is quietly confirming what the Egyptians knew. A 2011 study published in the journal Cancer found that frankincense extract killed bladder cancer cells while leaving healthy cells unharmed. The researchers were shocked by how selective it was. In 2016, researchers at Baylor University discovered that certain honey varieties showed significant anti-cancer properties, particularly Manuka honey and Sidra honey. In 2018, copper-based compounds entered clinical trials as cancer treatments. Multiple pharmaceutical companies are now trying to synthesize and patent variations of these copper compounds. They're taking what nature provides for free and trying to create a patentable version they can sell at a premium. The Egyptians weren't just lucky. They had a systematic approach to medicine that we're only now beginning to understand. They documented their findings in multiple texts. They tested their treatments over generations. They passed down knowledge through a formal system of medical education that lasted for thousands of years. Egyptian medical schools trained physicians in anatomy, surgery, pharmacology, and patient care. This wasn't folk medicine passed down through oral tradition. This was an institutionalized medical system with standards, training, and accountability. And here's something even more fascinating. The Ebers Papyrus references even older medical texts that have been lost to history. Texts from 5,000 or even 6,000 years ago. The papyrus itself says it contains knowledge from the age of the gods, from a time before recorded history. What knowledge did those earlier texts contain? Were they even more advanced? Did the Egyptians inherit their medical knowledge from an even older, more sophisticated civilization that we know nothing about? Some researchers have pointed to similarities between Egyptian medicine and the medical systems of ancient India and China. All three civilizations, separated by thousands of miles, developed remarkably similar approaches to treating disease. They all emphasize the balance of bodily energies or humors. They all use similar herbal remedies. They all understood the importance of diet and lifestyle in maintaining health. How did civilizations with no contact with each other develop such similar medical philosophies? Is it possible they all drew from a common, older source of knowledge that has since been lost? This raises an uncomfortable question. What else did ancient civilizations know that we've forgotten or ignored? The Ebers Papyrus also contains treatments for heart disease, diabetes, depression, and dozens of other conditions. Each one dismissed as superstition until modern science discovers the same principles thousands of years later. They had a treatment for diabetes that involved a diet high in fiber and low in simple carbohydrates. We rediscovered this approach in the 1970s. They treated depression with exercise, sunlight, and social connection. Modern psychiatry is finally recognizing these as essential components of mental health. They understood that heart disease was linked to diet and recommended limiting fatty foods and increasing physical activity. It took us until the 1960s to figure this out. Were the ancient Egyptians just incredibly lucky? Did they stumble upon effective treatments by random trial and error? Or did they inherit knowledge from an even older, more advanced source? The medical establishment wants you to believe that modern medicine is the peak of human achievement. But discoveries like the Ebers Papyrus suggest we might be relearning what was once common knowledge. Perhaps human knowledge doesn't move in a straight line forward. Perhaps civilizations rise and fall, and with them, their accumulated wisdom is lost, only to be slowly and painfully rediscovered by future generations. There's another disturbing possibility. What if the knowledge isn't lost? What if it's been deliberately suppressed? Throughout history, libraries have been burned, texts destroyed, and scholars silenced. The Library of Alexandria, which we'll explore in a future video, contained hundreds of thousands of texts from ancient civilizations. When it burned, untold medical knowledge went up in flames. But some scholars believe copies of these texts survived and were hidden away by secret societies and religious orders. Could there be a vault somewhere containing medical knowledge that would revolutionize healthcare if it were released to the public? It sounds like a conspiracy theory. But when you look at how often natural remedies have been suppressed throughout history, you start to wonder. The Ebers Papyrus is just one example. There are dozens of ancient medical texts that contain treatments modern science is only now validating. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, another Egyptian text, describes surgical procedures that weren't performed in Europe until the 1800s. The Kahun Papyrus focuses on gynecology and obstetrics, showing that ancient Egyptians understood female reproductive health in ways that European doctors wouldn't grasp for millennia. Traditional Chinese medicine texts, like the Wangdi Neijing, date back over 2,000 years and describe acupuncture, herbal medicine, and diagnostic techniques that modern science is only beginning to understand and validate. In India, the ancient Ayurvedic texts describe surgical procedures, including plastic surgery and cataract removal, that seem impossibly advanced for their time. The Sushruta Samhita, written around 600 BCE, describes over 300 surgical procedures and 120 surgical instruments. This is more advanced than anything Europe had until the Renaissance, over 2,000 years later. These aren't primitive cultures making lucky guesses. These are sophisticated medical traditions with deep knowledge that we've largely ignored because they don't fit our narrative of progress. So what does all this mean for you? It means that the next time a doctor dismisses a natural remedy as unscientific, remember that ancient physicians were using many of these remedies successfully for thousands of years. It means that the history of medicine is far more complex than we've been taught. It means that we should approach ancient knowledge with respect and curiosity rather than dismissing it out of hand. And it means that there might be treatments for modern diseases hiding in ancient texts, waiting to be rediscovered by researchers brave enough to look. I want to be clear. I'm not saying you should reject modern medicine. Modern surgery, antibiotics, and emergency medicine save countless lives every day. But perhaps the future of medicine isn't just about developing new drugs. Perhaps it's about combining the best of modern science with the wisdom of ancient healing traditions. Integrative medicine, which combines conventional and alternative approaches, is one of the fastest-growing fields in healthcare. Maybe the ancient Egyptians were onto something when they treated the whole person rather than just the disease. In the next video, we're going to explore an even more shocking discovery: a 2,000-year-old battery found in Iraq that generates electricity. Ancient civilizations with electrical knowledge? That's not supposed to be possible. But just like with the Ebers Papyrus, physical evidence doesn't lie. We're going to examine artifacts that challenge everything we think we know about technological progress. We're going to ask uncomfortable questions about what else ancient people knew that we've forgotten or that's been hidden from us. If you want to see more forbidden discoveries that challenge everything we've been taught, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Drop a comment below and let me know. Do you think ancient civilizations were more advanced than we give them credit for? Have you ever tried a natural remedy that actually worked when modern medicine failed? Share your experiences. Let's start a conversation about the knowledge that's been buried for too long. The truth is waiting. Are you ready to find it? I'll see you in the next video, where we uncover even more secrets they don't want you to know.